For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's Wednesday media availability. We got to talk to three people today: defensive coordinator Todd Orlando, defensive lineman Marlon Tuipulotu, and Brandon Pili. Shotgun, I'm going to start off with Todd Orlando. It's a big day for him because this press conference was situated in a unique position where he's looking forward to, as of recording this, USC's practice this afternoon, which is USC's first practice in full pads. And if you remember his press conference in March, he's a full pads guy. He kind of dismissed everything, all the practices before full pads. This is when you really get to the heart of it. You know where your defense stands. So he was very excited about the practice that the Trojans are going to have this afternoon. He said it's a big day. The building is excited. So Shotgun, what did you take away from how just amped he is to see where his defense is at right now?
I mean, Todd Orlando's already an energetic guy, from our interactions with him, chatting with him at various times. But you could tell the excitement, the gleam in his eye today. He's super excited about it. He came on the media call actually 5 minutes early. He's like, can we get going now? And, he was ready to go even early. He's ready to knock it out. He just wants to get ready for practice. And he even called – my favorite part, because I feel the same way. I talk about this every time. Keely's all really excited about camp starting, and I'm just like, oh, when do we get to full pads? The first couple of practices just mean nothing to me. I'm like, they don't mean anything. Nothing's actually going to happen these first couple of days that actually mean anything. And I feel like Todd Orlando's the same way, because he called the first two practices non. He's like, the first two practices, they're just non. And then he caught himself. Yeah. I think he was going to say they're non-practices. They don't even really count.
Yeah.
But he did say they're important for install and seeing where they are as far as alignment and stuff. He said they had a good inside period during shells yesterday or in the last 2 days. But he said today is the day. Today is the day. And he paused and let it know, he's really looking forward to these fully padded practices, because he said this is when you really find out, who's going to run in there and make that tackle versus who just looks good in the T-shirt and shorts. Are you 4'6"? When you're in T-shirt and shorts, and then 4'9" when you put the pads on, or are you the opposite and suddenly that adrenaline's flowing and you're running a 4'6" to get to the ball carrier versus running a 4'9" when you're running a 40 by yourself. So he's looking forward to that and seeing what guys are actually going to step up now that the pads are on, what guys can thump, what guys make those tackles versus who can just run in there and tag someone, which is what you do when you're not in full pads. So he's looking forward to that for sure. And it's been a long wait off. So I think that's part of the excitement as well, is not only like he's had these kids, for 7-8 months now, not being able to fully see their potential. He's like, and he talked a little bit later about how they have a really good idea of where guys are going to line up. The skill sets, have kind of matched up with what they thought. There haven't been a ton of guys they've had to move already. But you don't really know what a player has until you see him in full pads. And I think that's what Todd Orlando's looking forward to. That's why he's so excited about today.
Yeah, and you alluded to it, Shotgun. It's such an interesting position for Todd Orlando to be in, because when else has a defensive coordinator come to a school and had as much time off as they've had, just a prolonged off season. And he alluded to that, saying that, these practices before pads, it's really just about knowing your assignment. But he said, if you're a guy who comes out to the field and you don't know your assignment after 7 months of install, it just shows to him that you don't really care. Like, why are you here if you're not really knowing your assignment at this point? And so I thought that was an interesting kind of culture shift of, hey, you got to know your assignment. You have to be on your P's and Q's, or else we're going to know from day one whether or not how you feel about this team,
Yeah, definitely. Have you put that work in to know your playbook and stuff, especially in this particularly unusual season where there hasn't been that opportunity to be out on the field and learn that way. And he did say that, there are different types of learners. Some guys need to need to physically see and touch something to be able to learn that way versus seeing it over Zoom. He said he feels like 95% of the defense is installed already, which is a very positive note for USC's defense. And now it's just getting guys to go full speed, not to have that hesitation. Okay, am I doing the right thing? Am I not? It's to be able to go full speed, go in there and do their assignment, and make a play. When the offense has the ball and things are actually rolling now that you're going to be in full pads. So I think that's what he's looking forward to, is seeing what guys can do when the pads are on, and who knows their assignment when when you're going full speed. but I think he feels pretty confident in what they've done so far in the offseason. He said there's even been some positives, from having this time, this unusual time where you have 7 months of installing things over Zoom. I think he feels like, that they've done some different things, but that there've been some positives of guys being able to learn a little bit more than they would have been able to previously if the coaching staff was immediately out there with them during the spring. I think they've been able to learn about the staff a little bit more in this time off.
Mm-hmm. Todd Orlando was asked about Drake Jackson just because in the media guide he was listed as an outside linebacker, which was an interesting wrinkle. But the thing that stood out is that Todd Orlando said it's just a projection in the sense that it's going to be a hybrid role. He can attack the quarterback but also drop into coverage. But he said there's a caveat. If for some reason someone is an elite pass rusher and can get to the quarterback, then obviously you're not going to want them dropping into coverage as much. And so my question for you, Shotgun, is how much can we really gain from the media guide and Drake Jackson's listing, just because Todd Orlando has to see what Drake Jackson looks like in this defense? Can you even see right now, considering that we know that Drake Jackson is still struggling with that hamstring injury and might not even play for all of fall camp? How does that affect where he might line up come November 7th?
I've said this previously. I think he's going to be in a similar situation as Uchenna Nwosu or Porter Gustin, who are outside linebackers at USC technically, but rush the passer, 98% of the time. Uchenna Nwosu's playing linebacker in the pros and still rushing the passer 98% of the time. So I think that Drake Jackson's going to fall into that. I think his unique athleticism and his hands enable you to do some different things. And if he becomes an elite pass rusher, because I don't think he's there yet, he had a couple sacks last year. He showed some really good flashes, but there wasn't the consistency there that you need to be elite. But if he shows that he's an elite guy, now suddenly an offense rolls a tight end over to help block, or they keep a back end on the side of him and he drops back. Suddenly you bring pressure from the other side and you've opened things up for the rest of the defense. So I think he's going to enable the defense to do more things, but he's got to show that in the full pads. And that's the thing, that Todd Orlando talks about. He's got to see it himself. You can watch tape and see, okay, you did this in another defense, but I need to see it myself and how you fit into my scheme. So it's going to be interesting with the fact that we don't expect to see Drake Jackson on the field for a couple weeks for USC, or hopefully we get to see them at all for practice before the end of camp. But they don't expect to see him for a couple weeks because of that hamstring issue. So does it go all the way to the first game and now you're getting your first look at someone at a position and you have to adjust from there? I think it's just part of, the unique circumstances 2020 that, that you're just going to have to make adjustments on the fly already. So this one won't be that much different.
Mm-hmm. And Todd Orlando, just more personnel news, was asked about the linebacker position, especially because that is Orlando's position, specifically mentioning three guys, Pili, Nautote, Kanai Mauga, and Raylan Goforth. And Orlando had praise for all three of them. He said they're really extremely sharp players, and all three of them will get playing time. With Jordan Iosefa out, Shotgun, how do you see this linebacker position group looking like, and how do you see them in this defense?
It sounds like Pili and Nautote is kind of going to be in one spot and the inside linebackers, and the other two guys are battling for the other spot. And obviously that becomes the competition because Jordan Iosefa and Solomon Tuipulotu are both out for the season. So, you have a little bit more competition there for EA or in that other spot as well. But I think those are going to be your inside guys, and I think he really likes the fact that EA and Kanai both have a ton of experience. Todd Orlando said they've got some pelts on the wall, which Keely didn't really understand that reference to begin with.
I'm not a hunter, Shotgun, so that's why.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
You don't know your American history and fur trade. Got you. But no, those guys are going to be in there. They're going to be experienced. They have some experience already, but now you got to see them in a new defense and how, are they making the calls? Are you looking at the sideline to make the calls? Who's making the adjustment calls on the field? Which one of those linebackers it does that best may determine who plays the most out of that group. If Raylan Goforth shows that he has the best grasp of the defense and, is able to make the calls the best, then maybe he jumps in front of those older guys. I think that's something that is still to be determined. And also, you've got a whole new defensive staff. So if you're Raylan Goforth, you look at that as an opportunity. I don't have to now jump over guys. I'm just in a competition with them. they haven't already established themselves as the superior guys in front of me, the older guys. Now I can, we're in a competition, I can win that. So I think that's how he's got to look at it as well. But I think those are the three guys you're going to see in the middle the majority of the time. And then, but I think, again, it'll come down to who's able to make the calls and do the mental side of it as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, like I mentioned, we did get to talk to Brandon Pili and Marlon Tuipulotu, and they were asked about Jay Tufele, the top guy who opted out. And obviously, it's twofold for them because, one, they're losing their best friend, one of their best friends at USC, but also a guy who was a big part of that defensive front. Shaka, what did they have to say specifically?
Yeah, I mean, those three guys were pretty much always together when you would see them on campus, three really good friends. And hey, Brandon Pili and Marlon Tuipulotu said, hey, we're really happy for Jay to go chase his dreams and stuff. They're happy for him. But Brandon said it left a big void on our defensive line. And who's the biggest guy in the room? Brandon Pili. So who needs to fill that big void? Brandon Pili. And he said, I feel like the burden is now on me. So I think he knows that this is his year as a senior. He has to step up. If USC wants to be as good as they can be, it's going to take him stepping up and filling that hole left by Jay Tufele. And again, he's a guy, just like we talked about with Drake Jackson. He's shown flashes in the past, Brandon Pili has. He's shown that he can be a good pass rusher. He can get in the backfield. He's shown he can be a run stuffer. Can you put everything together and have a complete season? That's the big question with Brandon Pili. And, how much are those guys going to be asked to do? How much are they going to play? And who can fill in behind them? Because your defense tackles are not going to play 70, 80 snaps a game. They're going to play 40 to 50. What can you do with those 40 to 50 plays? That's what interested to see with Brandon Pili. And similarly with Marlon Tuipulotu, we've seen him really shine early in the season and then kind of fade away towards the end of the season the last couple of years. Can he put, with a shorter season, maybe this is an opportunity for him to put some really good tape on throughout the entirety of the year.
Yeah, and you also wonder what Vic Soto, if he can impact that position group as well. One last point for me, Shotgun, and then we can wrap it up. I just thought it was interesting. Orlando was asked about the jump that his defensives make every stop that he goes. The first year, they just have a jump in productivity. And he said, it's not so much scheme, it's just internally. It's the culture. It's making sure that you're doing the fundamentals right. And I'm sure for USC fans, it's probably good news to hear, considering that this defense probably, with as long as they were with Clancy Pendergast, probably just needed a new turn of the page.
Yeah, I think that's, I think it's about instilling confidence. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that maybe has been gone. That's something I wanted to ask. We didn't get to ask too many questions today, but how do you instill that confidence in the group? And to the players, do you feel like you're more confident? Is there some way that kind of shows that right now? That's something we have to keep an eye on. But the talk of Orlando, when he talked about the rest of the staff and how cohesive it seemed to be when they first came together with Dante Williams and Vic Soto. He'd already had a relationship with Craig Naivar. But the fact that they were all kind of on the same page, talking about the same things, which is not always the case with coaching staffs. You may have a difference of opinions and styles and stuff, but we've seen it on the recruiting trail already on the defensive side as well. It seems like those guys work really well together, and they're really on each other's side type of thing. It's not kind of compartmentalized. It seems like a cohesive defensive staff. Mm-hmm. I think you're seeing that. And if that carries over to the players, which it sounds like the players we talked to individually, talking to an Elijah Griffin or hearing him talk on Trojans Live and listening to him talk about how Dante Williams is instilling the confidence of a defensive back and how he feels like he's learning something new every time he talks to Dante Williams or Todd Orlando. If those are the situations, that's what allows the defense to play better in that first season. Is if you're playing with more confidence, it's crazy how much confidence plays into an 18 to 22 year old. And if you feel like what you're doing and you're running up there and going full speed, good things usually happen then. And that was something interesting that Todd Orlando said at one point, was that he wants them to fail and fail big in practice. He's like, I want you going and trying to make a huge play, and if you fail big, good. Learn from it. Now, how do we take that to the next day and then eventually to Saturdays? He doesn't want them to fail big on Saturdays, I don't think. But in practice, he wants them to take some chances and go for some things to learn and see what they can and can't do. So I think that just the, more aggressiveness and, the confidence level is only rising there. And I know some USC fans are very hesitant to be excited about something. But it sounds like from everyone around the program that the defense, it seems to be going in the right direction. It seems to have turned over a new leaf even. So we'll see if that plays out on Saturdays. But so far, the players are excited about it. And, Orlando's definitely excited about being able to get out there in full pads today.
Yeah, for sure. This is one of those days where I'm like, oh, I wish we could be out there and see it. But we'll try and get as much info as we can. But Shotgun, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I thought one interesting thing was Marlon Tuipulotu. He was asked about changing from 51 to 93. He said no real reason as far as the 93. He said it was just an open defensive lineman number, last worn by Liam Jimmons a couple years ago. But he said, just once we got into quarantine and this whole pandemic, he's like, I just want to leave that 51 behind, in the back of this lockdown. So I think it's interesting that he's just wanting a fresh start, and we'll see, if he comes out and has a monster year and a new number.
Yeah, we'll see if that was the trick, the new number. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for Shotgun Spratling. I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.